Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on adventures and travels by bike. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/334, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshifted.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 334th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. And on this edition, day 4 of the PDX-SF2x tour. A solid night's sleep and the lost phone drama fully behind me, it was time for a short but fun day riding the Seven Devils in Oregon. But that pesky missing climbing gear, would I be pushing more than riding before testing the bus drama that has been my companion literally every day of this tour? Good morning. Day 4 from Coos Bay, Oregon. It is a shorter day. I think I could characterize this as a shorter day. There's probably only about 26 miles of riding today, but it is over the aptly named Seven Devils of Oregon. I'm going to be leaving this lovely little motel here in, probably about an hour or less. And I am going to be aiming myself to the Seven Devils, enjoying that roller coaster ride. Well, once I get up the first hill is, oh my God. This is actually going to be a really good test of how bad my climbing gear is. But then again, I think that even with the older, better setup, I usually struggle a little bit. It's pretty steep, but I remember the book. When I say the book, by the way, I've said that in a prior episode, that of course is the older Cycling the Pacific Coast book that so many people used to use. I'm not sure if people use it as much anymore with apps and whatnot. But anyways, that one said that it was the steepest road on the entire Oregon section of the Pacific Coast route. And that sounds about right to me. Anyways, up and over that. Then the nice little roller coaster ride, a really amazing descent down to just a few miles outside of Bandon, Oregon. And then I'll end up at a Ray's Market, which is the local chain here in the southern part of the state. And then I'm going to hop a bus. And that is going to be my fast forward for the day. And it's a pretty big one. Does it take care of 2 days of riding? I'm trying to think here. I think it takes care of, roughly 2 days of riding, because I'll be skipping past one campsite, going to a second one. We'll end up in good old Brookings, Oregon. We'll be at Harris Beach. I'll probably do a small resupply at the Fred Meyer there, and I'll have plenty of time. I'll get there nice and early, so I'll probably consider setting up camp first and then going into town and then coming back. I don't know. We'll just see how I feel. If I can ask the driver to drop me off at Harris Beach, it's only a couple of miles from town, but it would allow me to set up, then go into town, and then come back. And that'll be the day. It's good. I feel like that although I got a great night's sleep last night, having a bed for the first time in a few days, I do feel like that I still have a little bit of recuperation that is necessary. My God, I actually put sugar in my coffee this morning. And let me tell you something, it really helped. So, I think I'm having trouble tuning into the nutrition elements and the energy needs, but it's getting better. And it's I think that the sun exposure has taken more out of me than I thought it would. But that's okay. I'll keep plugging away. I think with any tour, it's always a little bit of redlining when it comes to the ride. And I'm also realizing that although I picked some of my favorite parts, I certainly have ridden. It feels like being in the middle of this, I nailed this in terms of what I chose to ride and what I chose to skip. And of course, with Seven Devils today, it's one of my favorites. It'll be great. However, the great stuff is often the most challenging stuff. So instead of having like a lot of miles of flats, or at least easy riding that's maybe not as great looking. I'm throwing myself right into some of the more challenging stuff, and I am keeping an eye in a few days. I won't say I was struggling. I've been struggling, but I certainly have been. The mileage, it's not been a ton of miles. It's been really rough getting through, but I've got a 66-mile day that includes Leggett Hill and Rockport Hill, aka Middle Finger Hill, in a couple of days, and I'm just keeping an eye on that. But luckily, I've got, we'll call it, hikers call days where they don't hike as much a near zero. Today is about as close as I'm going to get to that, and of course I have one of the crazier climbs. I should be pretty happy to be done with it, but really, ultimately, it's only a few hours worth of riding. But then again, the last few days have only been quote unquote a few hours of riding. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I'm just going to, not in a race. I don't have to make the 12:20 bus in Bandon, but it would be nice because that just gives me more time on the Brookings side. Hey, maybe I'll just lose my phone on the bus or something and spend 2 hours elsewhere. Yeah, can't believe I got away with that one. All right. Okay, so here we are, day 4. Going to be packing up, going to be getting out of here. This was a wise choice. Threw some money at the problem, and yeah, feel good. Sunset Bay Campground. I'm glad I skipped it. I've always said that it's my least favorite, and well, I decided against it this time, and I feel better for it.
From the beginning of Seven Devils Road, right across from Old Charleston School, and by a patch of looks like blackberries that are nowhere near ripe. It is a foggy, misty, just shy of what I'd call rain kind of day, which is fine by me. In fact, I've been wanting this, so yay. I'm wearing the same sun sleeves and short sleeve combo that I've been basically riding in the entire week. I'm sure it smells terrific, but I am right at the base right now of the really steep portion of the first devil here, or at least that gets me up to the devils. And this is just the most challenging part of it, just in terms of energy output. So I may just have like a little bit of sugar, chocolate, something like that, just to get me going. I did have some breakfast earlier, but I think I will receive benefits if I have a little bit of the Mountain Mix Signature Select here and do that right before then. Ooh, I forgot, I've got a little bit of a Pop-Tart in there. Maybe we'll do that. Pop-Tarts are sneakily my favorite thing to have in my bag here, just because here the wrapper, the foil wrapper Hello Bruck does good calories, well, no, bad calories, but like good sugar and calorie content for a hill such as this. So I'm gonna munch away on this and not put you through the sounds of foil wrappers and other things like that. I'll probably check in somewhere up on one of the devils. From midway through Seven Devils Road, give or take, I'm just shy of halfway to Ray's, where the bus stop is. So actually, I'm probably a little more than halfway done. I'm at the top of one of the devils. The unfortunate thing is, the markers that somebody helpfully painted in years ago have long since washed away, which was one of the joys I thought of this route. But, c'est la vie, right? Interesting seeing more development up here, more people living up here, which, I mean, it's beautiful. But just to give you a sense of the types of folks who live here, I'm at the top of a hill, but next to a driveway. Very nice gate, very, very well appointed. There's Edison lights, and then there's a sign that says, "I don't call 911." So, rugged individualists who absolutely carry firearms. So, I'll be moving on now. Thank you. Okay, more devils, feeling good. Had that half a burrito, may have another bite before I move on. Starting to catch a little bit of a tailwind right now, which you may or may not be able to hear at this point. And that's nice. It is cool, almost one would say cold at this point, but all said, very, very delightful. I love this road. Very, very low traffic, and the few cars that have passed by have been super respectful, so that's been good. All right, more to come from Southern Oregon. From, I think, the top of Seven Devils. If memory serves, this is about where the big descent begins. So finished my breakfast burrito. Took a swig of some grape. What is this? Is this Gatorade? This is actual Gatorade with all the sugar involved. And I'm waiting on, I think I hear one more vehicle coming. I always like to make sure that there isn't a vehicle directly behind me when I do these descents, because I usually go just about as fast as they want to go, but sometimes I get somebody who's a little more aggressive and just don't care for that. All right. That was crazy. 2 vehicles in a row. That has not been happening. All right, let's get down. It's a little chilly up here, I have to admit. I threw on the rain jacket so that I don't freeze on the way down. All right, see you at the bottom. From the junction of Seven Devils Road and US 101, 4 miles north of Bandon, Oregon. That was fun. That was probably one of my favorite times doing that. It was just a little too chilly and a little too moist, but at the same time, that made for, I think, a more comfortable ascent. And you can always throw on some jackets to make the descent palatable on a cold day, and I did, and it was great. And I was thinking during the ride down, the descent, how you earn these things, and how I've worked for and earned some really tremendous descents already, and I've got more to come, of course, with California looming down south of here, and the big day that I've got. But before that, I've just got some really tremendous stuff. Really, really excited. Even though this is I'm getting to the end of my cycling day. It's going to be a lot of kind of utilitarian cycling for the remainder here. I've got to get to Bandon here, and then I've got the bus, and then it's a little back and forth to Brookings, between the campground and Brookings, just to run some errands, get some dinner, maybe do some laundry. It wouldn't be a terrible idea for me to launder some stuff. I have the clothes that I need, but it's always a drag to carry dirty clothes, I find. But I could certainly do that, and then it just gets me back to reset for that. So lots of things to consider for today, but I am grateful that the big cycling portion of the day is nearly done. And I think it ends up being about 26 miles when all is said and done. I'll do back and forth probably another 4, give or take, depending on how things go with the setup in Brookings. I'm really hoping that I can get dropped off at the campground first, but I'm also realizing that it might be too early. They may not let me in, so yeah, which would be a drag, because then I'd have to either wait around there to be let in, and that might be upwards of a couple of hours, or cycle in. You can tell I'm thinking out loud. All right, enough thinking out loud to you. That is not proper podcast content. Off to Bandon. From the glorious Bandon Shopping Center, where Ray's Food Place is, and my bus, just on the outskirts of good old Bandon. This is the kind of where normal people hang out kind of part of Bandon, and there are rich parts of Bandon as well, which is great no matter how you slice it. It's a cool town. I don't usually get a chance to spend much time here, and unfortunately that continues today. There is a laundromat here, but I have just under an hour, and I feel like that would be just enough time and just not enough time. So I think I'm gonna not do laundry here. If I'd been maybe 10 or 15 minutes faster, I would have considered it, but that's okay. I'm not real desperate. The problem is that I would want to launder the clothing that I'm wearing right now, which would require me to find a place to change. And while there might be a bathroom in there, there usually is. It would be too many moving parts at once, I think, to be able to pull off properly and to get stuff dry. So I am going to get a quick Subway sandwich. This is the same Subway I always get food from, and then I ride down into Bandon, and I'm like, I really should get food in Bandon instead of here every freaking year. But this year, because of taking the bus, I don't have the opportunity to do that. I promised myself I wasn't going to do that, but I just don't have the time. So Subway it is. All right, next stop will be the bus. Probably won't check in before I load up and get onto the bus. So the next stop is Brookings, Oregon, and or Harris Beach State Park. We'll see. We'll see if the bus driver can drop me off. I figure I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot to go straight to the park and get set up there, and then maybe take a shower, and then go in, and then come back. But we'll see. Sometimes they don't let us in until 3, and I think that this is one of them. So we'll see. From Harris Beach State Park, actually from 101 in Harris Beach State Park. I'm loading my bike up while on the side of the road. Got dropped off right here. What a delightful ride. I've got more to say about the bus. This was the anti-cursed ride, which I'm very grateful for. And apparently there were some charmed deer that literally ran across 101. I turned my back as I was getting the bike off, and apparently a mama and a little baby foal took their lives in their hands and made it across without getting struck on a relatively busy road here. So there's some good luck going on around here. So I'll be loading up. We'll get into camp. Hopefully they'll let me in. It is 2:49. So you know what? By the time I get there, it'll be close enough to 3. I'm sure that they'll let me in. Whether they are a 3 o'clock camp or not, I'm sure I'll be all right. Walking away from the shower house, and boy, do I feel clean. I feel good. It's amazing the restorative power of a shower after a day of riding and busing. I am very grateful for the showers at the end of the day, every day on this trip, which is really great. I got a bunch of things to talk about that will probably take up the bulk of the remainder of this episode. And I think I'll start off with the riding portion. Let's just start off by saying I feel great about how the hills went today. They were challenging. Was it a nothing burger? No. I mean, I definitely felt it afterwards, but I feel like that I'm prepared enough for the ride ahead, and that I'm not worried per se about Leggett and Rockport Hill. However, I do know that it's going to be much harder. It's going to be part of a hotter day. It's going to be part of direct sun. It's going to be tough. And the support opportunities are really limited. There's a great break spot there. I'll talk much more about this probably in tomorrow's episode as part of the preview for it. But, you know, this is not going to be fun. Maybe it'll be fun. I don't know. But it is going to be tricky. It's going to be a tough slog. But after today, I feel better about it. And that's I think, a really important thing. I'm really grateful that I got down here when all was said and done as early as I did. It gives me a little more spaciousness to enjoy the park. Gives me a little more spaciousness to get into town and enjoy dinner, and then to get back and get to bed at a reasonable hour. Now, it's interesting. I was thinking, but I haven't voiced it yet. I have not seen very many cyclists on the route yet, and it's puzzling to me because I feel like that has been the case for the last couple of times I've been on the Oregon coast. And it may just be randomness, but I did see a bunch of people, however, that we passed on the bike that were in between Humbug Mountain and here, which suggests that there's going to be some folks in camp tonight. I will probably not interact with anyone because I'll probably be going to bed very early. This is a camp that can tend to have a little celebratory angle to it. One of the very few in-camp interviews actually happened here. You may recall, a few years ago, a good group, I believe the guy said something about someone having good beta, and I had never heard that before, and that's when I knew I was #old. So anyways, I do feel like that I'm in a good place right now for the hills coming up as a result of just having the Seven Devils be, I don't know, a training ground, as it were, which is really good. So yay, Seven Devils, you did it again. Thank you for giving me some confidence. It's really, really, really important to me at this point. And you heard the rest of the stuff, so I mean, I won't go much more into the ride itself. Bike performed great. You know, all of my talk of, I don't know if I'm going to recommend this bike shop anymore. I mean, it's doing just fine. I noticed the missing gear, but it seems like I should be okay. It's not the end of the world. I think that when all is said and done, when you're on a really steep incline, it's hard. It just is when you're fully loaded. So. No big deal, right? Okay. What a delightful bus ride. This was Curry County Transit. They have an excellent coastal express route that goes from North Bend, which is where I ended last night, and bus-wise. It picks you up right at that point where Coos County lets off, Curry County takes over. And they have excellent service. It's 3 times a day in each direction that goes all the way down here to Brookings and everywhere in between. But let me also say that the not only is the coverage better, it just feels like that it's less sketchy in the sense that it feels rock solid. I have used it a few times and it's just rock solid. And you can compare and contrast that with Coos County, which doesn't get that vibe. I just say, Coos County, you could learn a thing or two from Curry County. That's all I'm going to say. The driver was delightful. First of all, it was her birthday, and she was just like, talk about a good public servant. This is somebody who built relationships. She's been driving for 12 years. I overheard her talking. She talked the whole time with various members of the bus, most of whom were regulars, and she made real deep connections, and she was really good about just helping people and knowing her community. And it's just one of those things that you think about more about, like, you know, the role of government broadly, but like just people in our lives that are in those service capacities. She was an absolute delight. What a gold star type of a person, I thought. She was wearing a shirt that said, "It's weird being the same age as old people." And I think she's roughly my age, so I don't know what that says, but I love the shirt because it is weird having the age that I have because I don't feel it, and it's, yeah. Anyways, let me give one more example of how her service level. There were folks, they were mostly seniors, and some with physical disabilities, or just, you know, it was tough for them to move around. One woman, there are set stops, but because it's Curry County, she will stop anywhere within the reasonable range of the stop. And so she stopped at one woman's front door, got off, and helped her with her groceries to her front door. Just the kind of stuff that you just don't see. I'm not used to this. I don't see that in the big city. You know, it's just good to see all of that. I just thought she was great. She did mention that Curry County may be charging for bikes in the future. She says that some drivers do, but she does not. And that's interesting because it's not on their website. I mean, if I have no problem with that. There are other transit agencies that do that. I mean, there's costs involved with the mechanisms for those bike racks. I get that. I do not begrudge that if they do that, but it would be nice to have some notice on that. That's another thing that I'll say about broadly these transit agencies. The bigger the city, the bigger the county, the region, whatever, the more coverage that there is, the website tends to be better and more up to date. I have found that these smaller agencies, which probably run on a shoestring, you know, they're a little rougher on the website side of things. Hi, Coos County. I'm not going to throw Coos County completely under the bus, but I'm going to throw them a little under the bus. The stretch that I took from Bandon to Port Orford is essentially a full day of riding. Humbug Mountain Campground is right a couple 5 miles past Port Orford. That stretch from Bandon to Port Orford is just okay from a cycling perspective. It's not terribly picturesque. It's not that great. So that portion of busing was awesome to take, compare and contrast with my last trip out here, where I felt like I only biked in the kind of so-so portions and bust through the beautiful portions. So, but I will say, once you get to Port Orford, there is a sweeping vista, which if you ever get to this part of the state, I can't recommend anymore. It is so gorgeous, so beautiful. And whether you do it by car, bus, bike, whatever, it's so worth seeing. It's just tremendous. Smoky, a little smoky today. Apparently yesterday was orange skies and hell on earth kind of a thing, so I'm glad I missed that. I do have a mask if necessary, but I don't smell it, I don't sense it. There is an air quality alert down here. There is a fire here in the southern part of the state. So yeah, something to be thinking about. Don't know if it's going to impact my ride further south. I don't think it is. I think my next fast forward is actually a pretty substantial one. As you all know, I'm going quite a bit further south. I'll be in the Avenue of the Giants tomorrow night. So redwoods, love that. I will say that, just getting back to the sense of, I made the right call on the fast forwards for this particular trip. I just feel really, really good about it. As I was rolling through the area where there's like a cranberry bog or something like that, which was neat the first time, but like the rest of that portion of the ride between Bandon and Port Orford is, from Port Orford on, it's gorgeous, and it's really challenging though, and it really takes a lot out of you. I often find myself rolling into this particular camp just absolutely burnt. It's unusual to be here feeling a little less than that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Seven Devils definitely took something out of me. For the 26 miles, I would say that burnt through. If I'm a battery, I'd say it burnt me down 50%. It's a pretty grueling. Is grueling the right word? It's an intense ride, and yeah, so I'm definitely feeling it today, but not as bad as I could have. I mentioned before that this particular bus, the Curry County bus, allows you to do interstitial stops. So the driver dropped me right off right in front of Harris Beach State Park, and that saved me a couple of miles. That's about 2 miles into town. And, you know, that was just great. And it was the perfect timing. I didn't get any hassle about coming in. I was the first person checking in. There is somebody who's here already who seems to be a hiker or something like that, but is spending a second night. But yeah, just nice to like hear. What time is it? It's like 4:20 p.m. and I've already showered. I've got the tent set up. I'm ready for whatever kind of early well, I guess we'll call it late afternoon grandpa, late afternoon adventures I'm gonna have in Brookings. So I am gonna go into town for an early dinner. Emphasis on early, apparently. But unfortunately, Chetco Brewing is not open. That is the local brewing company. They've got a vegan food cart that's right next to it. That would have been perfect. I did it last time. I really rather enjoyed it. It was a good vibe. Not going to happen. They're not open today, which is a Wednesday? I think it's a Wednesday. So I'm calling an audible, and there's a distillery in town that I've never been to. Hold on, I want to pull it up. It's called Superfly. Is it called Superfly? Well, now it's gone. Well, Superfly Martini Bar and Grill. I am not a martini guy per se. I will enjoy a nice martini, but it looked like it got good reviews, and it seems it has good food, and it's unusual, and it's local, and I like to do unusual and local. I thought about going to the same Mexican place that Mysterious James and I went to once, but I think I want something a little more, I don't know, I want something different. I want to try something new. So much of this trip is about repeating elements. I think it's important that I try something new. And so we're going to Superfly Martini Bar and Grill, and that will be the closeout for this fine evening. I really intend to be back here in a few hours, and you know, sunset's around 8:30ish or so. I'm honestly, I'm really thinking I want to crash out, because tomorrow it's a real early call. I've got two options, and of course I'll cover this probably a little bit more in next episode, but the option is a 6:15 bus that is 2 miles away in Brookings that will start my chain, or I ride through, go to the state border, get a picture at the sign, and continue down to Smith River. That is an 11-mile ride, and I have to connect with the bus at 6:45 there. So a lot depends on how early I want to get up and how prepped I get to pack things up. I tend to think that I can pack things up a lot quicker than I actually can, but what I might do is try to set the alarm early enough with the intention of maybe being able to ride all the way down to Smith River. But if it's not feeling like I've got enough time, that I don't have a luxurious amount of time to stop, pack up the bike and everything, and still feel comfortable grabbing that bus down in Smith River, then I will just say screw it, and we'll do Curry County one more time to take me down to Smith River. Okay, that was a lot. That was many minutes of your life were just consumed listening to all of the things from this day. It was a good day, and I am very, very pleased to say that day 4 was, I think, my favorite day in some ways, mainly because nothing went wrong. Well, wait a second. There's still time left in the day, isn't there? Did I just jinx myself? I don't know. Guess you'll find out next week. Statistics. Miles biked, 23.2 miles. Devils deviled, 7. Miles bust, 88 miles. Inches of Subway sandwiches consumed, 6. Chocolate martinis consumed afterwards, 2. Flats, 0. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community. Expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco,
Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zaranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Kropke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Lazuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsell, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, Sam Scruggs, Dwight Pintinger, Connie Bowder, Rob Merrifield, and thanks to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.